What if events went differently, and during one of his high-speed time runs, Barry Allen, the Flash from the CW universe, didn't land in the past or the future, but in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Welcome back, fellow watchers of the multiverse. My name is Max Charlevoix, aka MissedThePart, and today's Flash Week episode is a reality-breaking collision between two iconic worlds. One ruled by the Speed Force, and the other swings through the streets of New York. In this alternate timeline, Barry is tracking a temporal breach caused by a Speed Force anomaly, only to be violently pulled into another universe. He wakes up in a world that feels stuck in time, analog TVs, newspapers, and a troubled hero named Peter Parker, struggling to keep his powers and his life together. But that's not all, because just as Doctor Octopus prepares to bring his fusion reactor online, Barry realizes the breach he fell through wasn't an accident. This crossover was inspired by our incredible monthly Watcher tier community, the people who help build entire themed weeks like Flash Week and bring crazy multiverse mashup storylines like this to life. I do want to give a massive community shout out to Ian Coyne for making the Flash Week happen, and we do have Spider-Man Week coming soon, and so I thought as a surprise I would do What If the Flash was in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. So, that being said, let the multiverse shake, and let's continue the Flash Week. The Speed Force was a storm, infinite, ever-changing, and alive. Barry Allen had spent years mastering it, trusting it, racing through it like a second heartbeat. But this time felt different. Something was off. The vibrational frequency was fluctuating. His speed was dragging, stuttering, like a glitch in a cosmic engine. As he pushed harder, slicing through the timeline to revisit the moment that defined him, the night of his mother's death, a blinding crack of white light enveloped him. He didn't phase out of time. He fell. With a bone-rattling crash, Barry landed hard in an alley. Not Star Labs, not Central City. Brick buildings lined with graffiti and fire escapes. Steam hissed from a nearby grate. The air smelled like hot dogs, car exhaust, and distant ocean salt. He stumbled to his feet, gasping. His suit flickered with residual energy. His internal comm was dead. No signal. No Gideon. When he tried to vibrate through a nearby chain link fence, he couldn't. His molecules hesitated. The Speed Force was still inside him, but it was faint, like a dimming candle. A newspaper fluttered past his boot. He grabbed it. Daily Bugle. Yes, it's so we see it done. May 7th, 2004. Barry blinked. He wasn't just in another city, he was in another world. Across the city, Peter Parker sat in his cramped apartment, head in hands, the weight of the world pressing down. Rent was past due. His grades were plummeting. MJ had stopped returning his calls. He'd been late to everything again, and worse, his powers were vanishing. His webbing misfired. His sight was blurring. That morning he leapt from a building to chase a carjacker and fell hard, scraping his elbow like a regular man. The city didn't need Spider-Man. Maybe it never did. Maybe it only needed Peter Parker, and even that was starting to feel like a lie. Barry tried to navigate this new world quietly. He kept to alleyways, moving too fast for the public to notice, but not fast enough to feel normal. There were no meta-human readings, no Speed Force echoes, not even a hint of familiar vibrational patterns. He was isolated, stranded. His attempts to contact Star Labs across the dimensional divide yielded nothing. Even the multiverse felt distant, fogged. He was alone, not just in time but in physics. The Speed Force didn't live here. That's when he found him. Dr. Otto Octavius, still respected, still human. Still, a man adored by students and scientists alike.
Barry met him during a quiet accident at a university robotics expo. A runaway generator nearly electrocuted a young intern. Barry moved fast enough to shield the kid, but slow enough that people saw. The footage hit the news, a red blur saving a life. Within days, Otto reached out. Their first conversation was awkward but filled with wonder. Otto was fascinated, not threatened. He asked Barry about dimensional resonance, about energy densities beyond comprehension. Barry tried to downplay it, but eventually shared the truth. That he was from a different world. That he was powered by a universal force no one here had ever heard of. Otto listened, intrigued, and offered his help. In Otto's lab, Barry finally relaxed. For the first time since arriving, he saw a familiar kind of brilliance. A man driven not by greed or fame, but by hope. Otto showed him blueprints for a miniature sun, a fusion reactor he believed could provide clean, endless energy. Barry marveled at the idea. In another life, he thought maybe they'd be friends. But deep in Otto's eyes, something else stirred, something darker. When Barry tested his speed in a controlled sprint around Otto's lab, the scientist watched with quiet hunger. The speed force rippled, and Otto's sensors flared. To Barry, it was a simple movement. To Otto, it was limitless power, more than fusion, more than radiation. A self-renewing energy source that moved through time itself. That night, Otto sat alone in his lab, fingers curled over aged schematics. He had once lost everything in the name of progress. His wife, his funding, his reputation. But this man from another world could restore it all. He would finish his fusion project. He would rebuild his mechanical arms. And this time, they would be perfect. They would harvest the Speed Force. Across the city, Peter sat at the bedside of his unconscious Aunt May. A recent accident had shaken her, both emotionally and financially. She blamed herself, but Peter blamed himself more. With each passing day, he could feel the mask slipping, not from his face, but from his soul. And without his powers, without Spider-Man, he was just a boy, watching the world fall apart. Barry watched from a rooftop that night. He'd seen Peter in the papers, watched him save people in grainy footage. There was something familiar in his movements, the reckless, desperate kind of hope only a real hero knew. Barry didn't know him yet, but he could tell they were alike. The world was broken. They were both losing what made them heroes, and deep beneath the city, surrounded by the hiss of hydraulics and whispering artificial intelligence, Otto Octavius tightened the first cold clamp of metal to his spine. The game was beginning. The city moaned under the weight of neglect. Garbage piled up, traffic snarled, and hope seemed a little dimmer than usual. In alleys and corners, ordinary people whispered about the days when a red blur or a man in tights would show up to stop a robbery, pull someone from a burning building, or swing in just in time to catch a falling train. But now, the blur was gone. The webs were gone. The city was alone. In the cluttered corner of a warehouse lab, Barry Allen sat on cold metal, his wrists bound in a containment rig made from reconstituted fusion cores and advanced alloys Otto claimed to have borrowed from Oscorp. Barry's connection to the Speed Force was weakening by the hour. His cells, which once hummed like lightning, now felt leaden. Every breath came slower. Otto's machine had begun siphoning him, not just of speed, but of identity. The Speed Force in this universe was foreign and fading, and Otto's makeshift reactor drank what was left. Otto stood over him, the sunburst fusion core, hovering above their heads like a mechanical halo, tendrils of electricity, twitching with anticipation. His AI arms slithered and clicked, their whispers more frequent now. Not just suggestions, but commands. His pupils were slightly dilated. His voice, once warm and excited, had turned clinical, impersonal. "You don't understand, Barry," Otto said, adjusting a dial. "You were given your powers. I built mine. I earned them. What you call the Speed Force. It's the very essence of momentum, of continuity, of fusion. And now, I've fused it with my dream." Barry pleaded with him. "It's going to collapse everything, and the fabric of time, space. This world can't contain that kind of energy. It's not ready. You're not ready." Otto's smirk faltered for a moment. A flicker of humanity still buried in the mechanical grave he had dug for himself. But the AI arms tightened. The lights pulsed, and he said nothing more. Meanwhile, across New York, Peter Parker wandered aimlessly. His life had unraveled thread by thread. He'd attended MJ's play and watched her from the back row, heart aching, knowing he couldn't offer her the life she deserved. He walked past a mugging and kept walking. He tried to scale a building and fell hard. But then something small changed. He saw a boy standing in the street gazing up at a mural of Spider-Man. "Where'd he go?" the boy asked his mother. Peter clenched his fists, his breath caught. Otto's plan grew more unstable by the day. His reactor, now powered by the stolen Speed Force, began distorting local reality. Electrical storms crackled across the sky in strange geometric patterns. Radios broadcast 2 stations at once. Buildings shimmered faintly like they were phasing in and out of sync. Barry felt it in his bones. Otto wasn't just tapping the Speed Force, he was corrupting it. Then came the ripple. Across space and time, Reverse Flash stepped through. His yellow suit buzzed with volatile energy, but he was weaker than usual. This wasn't his world either. Still, he grinned. Eobard Thawne always found opportunity in chaos. He appeared beside Otto, not with violence, but with vision. Otto recognized something of himself in Thawne, a man wronged by time, desperate to be remembered. "I don't want your world," Thawne whispered to Otto. "I want his, and you, Doctor. You're the key to breaking him." Together they enhanced the siphoning device. Otto's reactor now operated as a multiversal battery, storing the Speed Force energy and stabilizing the reactor's chaotic output. Barry was kept alive only because he was the fuel, the tether holding the experiment together. But Peter Parker was done hiding. The moment came in an alley drenched in rain. MJ had been kidnapped. Again. Otto wanted leverage. And MJ once again had become the city's emotional epicenter. Peter stood there in the shadows, breathing hard, staring up at a crumbling wall. And then, he jumped. Webbing, fired. His body soared. For the first time in months, he wasn't falling. He was flying. Spider-Man was back. And this time, he wasn't alone. With renewed purpose, Peter raced across the city toward the location Barry had spoken of, the abandoned Pier Lab. The skies above turned black as thunder cracked with blue lightning, unnatural and sickly. Barry, barely conscious, reached into what little was left of the Speed Force in him and whispered a silent cry. Not of pain, but of need, a connection, a spark. For one moment he saw Peter, and Peter saw him. When Spider-Man burst into the lab, it was like a Raimi painting. Sparks flying, cables thrashing, MJ suspended above a collapsing core of energy, and Barry bound in the center of it all like a crucified bolt of lightning. "Let him go, Otto," Peter shouted. Otto's response was a tendril of steel. Spider-Man dodged, flipped, landed, the dance of rage and regret playing across the scorched floor. Eobard Thawne watched from the shadows, waiting, calculating. But Barry had one last trick. In a moment of desperation, he triggered a feedback loop, a memory burst of every moment that made him who he was. His mother, Iris, Joe, Cisco, Caitlin, and Peter. The energy surged, his binding shattered, and as Otto turned in surprise, Barry ran. The sky above the New York waterfront had turned sickly green, crackling with raw, unnatural electricity. Storm clouds circled the decaying pier like vultures, and at its center, Otto Octavius stood atop his fusion reactor, now warped by Speed Force energy into a churning vortex of time and power. Lightning slashed across the sky, tearing holes into strange mirrored versions of the city. Alternate timelines bleeding through. Reality was crumbling. The multiverse was cracking. At the heart of the maelstrom stood Barry Allen, barely standing, his eyes pulsing with fading golden light. The speed force in this universe had been all but drained from him, twisted into a power source by Otto's machine, and redirected through the cold calculations of Thawne's sabotage. But Barry was still fighting, not with power, with will. From above, Spider-Man swung in like a falling comet, crashing through one of Otto's thrashing mechanical arms, and landing beside Barry in a three-point stance. His suit, scorched and ripped, barely clung to him, but his eyes, those expressive white lenses, narrowed with purpose. "You ready to run?" Peter asked. Barry staggered up, a small grin cutting across the blood on his cheek. "Only if you swing with me." A roar echoed across the metal chamber as Otto descended, a twisted silhouette of man and machine. The AI arms now moved on their own, flickering with Speed Force sparks. His eyes glowed faintly blue, his voice robotic and warped. "You could have had a future," he growled. "Together we could have created something beyond time." "You already did," Peter said, webbing two of the arms to the ceiling. "It's called a mistake." And from the shadows stepped Eobard Thawne, his yellow suit buzzing with stolen speed force. His grin was wide, ferocious. He looked at Barry the way a lion looks at prey that once got away. "I offered you everything, Barry," Thawne hissed, "and now look at you, stranded, powerless, forgotten. This world will be your grave." Barry took one trembling step forward. "Maybe, but I'm not alone." What followed was chaos, a whirlwind of fists, webs, and lightning. Peter danced across metal scaffolding, dodging Otto's arms, planting web bombs, and saving MJ again and again from collapsing structures. Barry, running on fumes, created temporal echoes of himself. Afterimages that disoriented Thawne and disrupted the energy field just long enough to destabilize the core. Every second was bought with sweat and blood. Otto's reactor pulsed violently, now spinning out of control. MJ dangled above the chaos, suspended by a fraying web line attached to a steel girder, swaying in the gale of raw speed force. As Otto turned to crush Peter once and for all, Barry hurled himself into the air, not with super speed, but with pure speedster instinct. His body arced in slow motion, lightning trailing from his fingertips. With a final surge of courage, he caught MJ mid-fall and spun, cushioning the landing as steel and fire rained around them. "Guess you are fast after all," she whispered breathlessly. Barry coughed. "Only when it counts." Meanwhile, Otto was losing control. His mind cracked under the weight of voices, the AI arms shrieking with hunger, the reactor screaming as it fed on dimensional instability. For a moment, he looked at Peter, his gaze flickering with the ghost of the man he once was. "I don't want this," Otto muttered. "Not like this." "You still have a choice," Peter said, standing tall in the storm. "You always do." Otto blinked, and in that blink he saw everything. Rosie, the future he'd tried to build, the power he'd let consume him. His mechanical arms hesitated, just long enough. Barry, pulling together the last crumbs of his Speed Force energy, tapped into the reactor's core. Not to destroy it, but to redirect it, he and Thawne clashed inside the spiraling time tunnel that had formed above the pier, punching across years, their movements strobing like a skipping VHS tape. Barry saw himself as a boy. He saw Iris. He saw every failure, every death, and still he ran. In a flash of blue and gold, Barry tackled Thawne into the eye of the vortex, siphoning the corrupted speed force out of the reactor and into himself, destabilizing the machine from the inside. Peter screamed, "Barry, don't!" But it was too late. The vortex imploded. Not in fire, but in silence. A bright white flash washed over the harbor, erasing every crack in the sky and sealing the rift between worlds. When Peter opened his eyes, he was alone. The pier was gone, reduced to rubble. Otto's mechanical arms lay twisted in the sand. MJ was safe. The storm had passed, and Barry Allen was gone. Back in Central City, our Central City, Cisco Ramon sifted through satellite footage. There, buried in grainy video from 2004 New York, was one frame, a red blur, racing against the tide of a collapsing building. "Barry," Cisco whispered. Cut to Peter Parker on a rooftop, gazing out across the city. He reaches into his backpack and pulls out something strange. A lightning bolt emblem, scorched and humming, faintly with static. He smiles, softly. "He saved me," Peter says. "Guess that's what heroes do." In a hidden lab, dark and humming with low rhythmic pulses, a monitor flickers on. On screen, a heartbeat, faint, rapid, then a whisper. He's still running. A stasis pod lights up. Inside, Barry Allen floats, unconscious but alive, in a containment chamber marked with the Oscorp insignia and something else. A reverse lightning bolt. Eobard Thawne isn't done yet. That is going to be it for What If Barry Allen's Flash was in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Now, what did you think of this alternate scenario and timeline? Do let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. Want to help shape the next crossover episode? Join the monthly watcher tier and help us create full video themes. If you would like your own themed week and you would like to collaborate with us here on the channel, I would highly recommend to check out that tier. But if not, just request. Keep requesting. We really appreciate any sort of ideas and creativity that you bring to the YouTube channel. So we always try and take your requests on the comments, within live streams. It's something that we always try and strive to do, and we can't thank you guys enough for the support. Even just commenting anything always really does mean a lot to me personally, so I can't thank you guys enough. Massive community shout out to Ian Coyne, not for really requesting this video, but for having the Flash Week available for me and to kind of insert this particular what if into the Flash Week. So you never know what you're going to get, and again, I do want to say, I hope you enjoyed the surprise, Ian. I really wanted to make this video possible, so again, thank you so much for the support, and again, thank you guys so very much. So I will see you in the next video. Take care, and have a wonderful day. Peace out.